I'm going to minimize this one. No, let me leave that one. All right, guys, can you see me sharing the final research report assignment? Can you see that share? Yes, anyone?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. We are working toward a research project which will be submitted later this year. We are pressed for time. This is what the final product rubric looks like. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at this. The final research report, which is the end product of what we are doing, will count out of 200 marks. Remember, guys, I'm not going to mark your final report. I'm going to mark your milestone submissions up to a point, and then you will be marked by someone else and an external. But this is a bit of an intimidating undertaking, to put it mildly. Your research report will be about 15,000 words, 25 to 30 pages. Um, then look at all the detail, look at everything that we are working toward. Now, what we are doing now is going to be included and taken up in the final project. So I think it's a nice way to do it. Look at the rubric for the final report, folks. This rubric is about 10 pages long. So there's a lot of work, there's a lot of detail, there's a lot of stuff that's going to require your meticulous attention. There's the rubric. It goes on and on and on and on for about 10 pages. That is the final research report. So that's quite a demanding, challenging undertaking. Be that as it may, this is where we are. You guys have signed up for this. Uh, the fact that they've approved you to do this tells me that you've got an absolute shot at it. I just want to write at the outset for those listening on the recording as well. Um, just again emphasize the seriousness of this, guys. It's an enormous undertaking. If it does not consume you for the next couple of months, I'm going to ask you what's wrong. In fact, tongue in cheek, I want to say if you don't have puffy eyes and black circles around your eyes, you're doing something wrong. So this is huge. Don't sideline it. A guaranteed way to fail this module, to fail the research, is if you sideline it. Now remember, you've got core modules as well. If you fail the research module, you can't graduate. And it's easy to fail. It's easy to lose the plot. I'm not scaring you. I just want to set the scene and let you guys understand this is serious, which then again brings me to emphasizing that you need to take 100% responsibility for your research project. It's not the work of your lecturer. It's not the work of your supervisor. We are there to support you, to guide you lightly. Um, don't fall into a paralysis where you're battling, but you sort of think and hope and feel that things are going to work out fine. It doesn't work like that. You have to be intentional. You have to figure it out. Because you're a postgrad and because we're treating you like academics, like academic peers, the expectation is that you must sort things out. Yes, we are there to guide you, to help you. You can approach us at any time. But I'm going to tell you, figure it out. Make it happen. Do the research. If you say, listen, I've reached out to 12 people, but now this one is on holiday and this one, and I'm not going to sympathize with you. I'm going to tell you, make a plan, figure it out, do what you need to do to make it happen. So don't let the research module catch you on the back foot, guys. That's my opening statement for this evening. Do research. If you're not sure about or certain about something, do the research. Educate yourself so that you can nail this process successfully. I don't want any of you to fail. Remember, you marked by a different person, by a different moderator. The marking is going to be strict. There's no goodwill. It's not their own students. It's someone else completely that doesn't know you, doesn't know your project. That's marking your final project. So, academic quality, scientific credibility, academic rigor is of the essence. Guys, keep that in mind. All right, part 2 is what's coming up. Now, at the time of this meeting, recording this meeting on a Wednesday evening, your feedback and mark might have been published. It might have not been published. I'm not sure. But we're not going to discuss individual marks and individual feedback now. We've set up time slots. Thanks a lot for everyone that participated in making that a very painless process. So you've got your slots. On that note, when your slot, we're going to use the same meeting link on the 2 respective days. Well, there'll be 2 links. When you dial in, please dial in at your allotted time, your allocated time. If you are allocated for 6:30, please don't dial in at 6:15 or 6:25. I'm busy with a student. Dial in exactly at the time when you are allocated to dial in. Guys, please let's manage that. I will send the links tomorrow, Thursday, so that you can dial in. And then I'm going to sit with you, each and every one of you, individually, and talk a bit about your part 1 submission. Now, the part 1 submission, you're gonna have a look at my feedback and we'll discuss it with you. You need to update it. You need to bring in corrections. You need to consider the stuff that I pointed out. Please do that, and you will see in your part 2 submission, there's a mark allocated to your updated work in terms of the planning document. Now, guys, the planning document, the concept document, is really your bird's eye. It's your blueprint. That is the thing that you're going to drag along, and it gives you a bird's eye view of your whole study. There's a mark allocated to that. So you have to submit your concept document, your updated concept document, as part of assignment 2 as well. You can put it in an attachment if you want to. You can, I think, do separate submissions on the submission link as well. In other words, submit 2 documents. I believe that can also work. But guys, if you don't submit that document, I cannot give you a mark for that. And in fact, the mark is given for an updated version of your planning document, not for submitting the old version. So please be mindful of that. We'll take a look at that now. We'll go through your individual research projects, and I'll fine tune and custom and tailor the feedback I give each of you. Look at what I'm asking you. Look at the feedback I'm giving you. Consider it, work with it, so that we have something to discuss, so that you can bounce your ideas with me. If I'm telling you, listen, I think you should change the title slightly, come back and do some homework, do some footwork, come back and say, well, what about this or that? You have to do the work. I will help you. I will assist you. I will support you relentlessly, because I want to see you succeed. But you have to work with it. You have to, in a sense, wrestle with your study. Something else I want to tell you, and maybe we did touch on this in our first meeting, it is a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and that's perfectly normal. On some days you will feel very much in control and you know exactly what you're doing. On other days you might feel uncertain, or you're confused, or you feel, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. That's perfectly normal. It's par for the course. Don't let your emotions work against you. I will almost say, just carry on mechanically and do your thing. Put one foot in front of the other and remain faithful to the process, guys, and you will see your research project come to fulfillment or fruition almost by itself, as you put and invest your sincere energy into it. That said, I've never seen a research project that comes to fruition without lots of blood and sweat and tears. That's also par for the course, which again reminds us that it is good that an honest degree is not something that is given out for free. It's not given out for every second Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's something you're going to earn, but it's something you're going to be proud of, and you're going to earn by hard work. So that's the story. It's going to be difficult, but it's doable. And remember, I always tell my students, many have done it before you. Many will do it after you. So do it, make it happen. Let's nail it. All right. So the part 1 feedback is something that you guys must please take seriously. Look at what I said, make the discussion, come to the individual discussion prepared so that we can be productive in that 15 minutes or 20 minutes. 15 minutes, I think, is about enough for most of us to discuss your individual story. And let's make sure that we are on the right track. We cannot, because we are pressed for time, we cannot go down the wrong track and try and correct that 2 months from now. We have to be certain that our focus is correct, things are in place, we are on the right track, we are chasing the right thing, our sights are fixed on the correct goal. We have to make sure about that. And then I want to tell you that the part 2 submission is probably one of the hardest ones to do, guys. Your literature review is an immense task. It's time consuming. You guys are going to sit and work on that thing for days and nights. But it's a wonderful, beneficial use of your time. I'll tell you why. When you do your literature review, it's going to inform and educate you. It's going to educate you in terms of the subject matter, the subject material. It's going to make you some sort of a subject matter expert. There's no way to do that in any shortcut. So you're going to immerse yourself in the literature, and you're going to get language, and you're going to get information, and you're going to get educated on that literature review, and you're going to write something that should inform your reader. Guys, very important. Your literature review is literally, if I can use my glasses, the lens through which we look at your study. It's the lens through which we interpret and understand and rationalize and evaluate your whole study. Your literature review informs me of the topic that you are busy with. So, there's a lot of work there, and when I read your literature review, I want to be well informed. I really want to feel after reading the review, or anyone else reading the literature review, that there's no gaps. You haven't left gaps in informing me what's happening in the literature landscape pertaining to the topic under investigation, the research phenomenon, as it were. Some things that you need to keep in mind when we are looking at the literature review section as a whole. There's basically 3 things that will be included in that section in your final report. The first is your concepts, your conceptualization. Now, there's a bit of to and fro and questions about that, and some people say, should we have a certain number of concepts? I'll give you this guideline on conceptualization. I want you guys to define the important or the key concepts of your study and use a credible academic source in that definition, with the purpose to highlight the importance of that concept and to inform the reader that this is the understanding associated with that concept. In other words, if I read your study and I encounter the term or the concept disruptive innovation, this is what it means. This is the definition that you want me to attach or associate with that concept. And use a credible academic source to define that actual concept. So you might have a handful of these concepts that you want to define. Please don't go and define, if your study is about dogs in preventing crime in Pretoria, please don't go and define dogs or crime for that matter. We know what that are. We know what those mean. Don't go and put some ridiculous stuff that is not ambiguous, that everyone knows in your concepts. That would be silly. So consider, be careful, use your discretion on which concepts you decide to include in your conceptualization. The ones that matter, the one that you want to emphasize, the ones that need clarification in terms of this is how you want the reader of your report to understand and view this concept when it is encountered in your text. The second thing that will be part of your literature review will be your theoretical foundation. That simply means the theory. Now, guys, one theory is enough. Please take that point. You can use two theories, but you're going to have to convince me why. Why do we need two theories? One is enough. And remember, because you are social scientists, most of the theories that will appear in your part of the woods would be social or behavioral theories. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, they've got a person's name attached to it. It is Maslow's theory, Herzberg's theory. Not all the time, but most of the time there's a good clue. Good theory has a person's name sometimes attached to it. Now, Maslow theory simply tells me if I want to put up library pods in a rural area, and I want to do a study on that, I'm looking at the viability of erecting library library pods in a rural area. I encounter Maslow's theory. Maslow's theory says, and theories are regarded as truth, guys. Theories can predict human behavior. They are regarded as accurate. So Maslow tells me, in a community where people's basic needs are met, they might be interested in something like educational sources or resources like library pods or computer workshops or that sort of thing, computer rooms. If their basic needs are not met, in other words, food, water, and shelter, and that sort of thing, they would not gravitate toward educational resources because that is a more crucial hierarchical need that is not met. So we can take that into our study. We can keep that into consideration. It blends into our study. It allows us to make certain decisions. It allows us to work in certain assumptions. It allows us to work from a certain starting point to say Maslow's theory is aligned with my study. Now, theories are not always easy to find. You have to dig around a bit, guys. You have to dig around to find those good theories. They are not always just there on the surface. They're not going to jump out to you. You have to go and look for them. Look for a theory that is nice, that is interesting, that is aligned with your study. Tell me about the theory. Tell me who came up with the theory. Tell me how the theory was initially and traditionally utilized. Tell me how the theory is aligned with your study. Tell me why the theory is aligned with your study. Tell me what assumptions or what predictions the theory allows you to make in terms of your study. And that's your theory. That's your theoretical foundation, guys. That's it. There's going to be a page or two allocated to the theoretical foundation in your final report. And that will fall under the main part of a literature review. And then the third part that will form part of your literature review main section, remember, a research report does not have chapters, only a dissertation or a thesis. It only has sections. So the main literature review section will also have then, apart from the concepts and theory, it will have the literature review section. Very important. I want you guys to use proper headings, subheadings. Give me a literature review that is ordered, sensible, coherent, logical, easy to understand, makes sense, and informs me. I don't want gaps. I don't want to say, listen, I've read your literature review, but I feel I'm not well informed. There's stuff that I need to be informed about that is part of the study, but you didn't address it. I'm not well informed. So very important, guys. Make sure those things that I call themes in your concept document. I hate the term themes. Why? Because it confuses students with the themes that we will discover in our manual thematic content analysis. That's what it's called. A manual thematic content analysis. I would rather call them elements or factors to be explored. Those are the things that you want to unpack in your literature review with headings, with subheadings. Please, important, when you write a literature review, don't use a shopping list style of writing. Remember, that means you're telling me Watson says this, Jones says this, Mackenzie says that. So what? I want you to tell me a story. Look at seminal sources. You're talking about customer relations software. You're talking about performance appraisal systems. Go back to the seminal work. When was that? When did that originate? Say, for example, this is just an example, argument's sake. Performance appraisal systems was started in the 1940s, for argument's sake. This is how people started to think about it at the time. This is how it was implemented in organizations. This is how it changed over the years. This is how different scholars discussed and viewed performance appraisal systems. Then come into the current world, the contemporary world. Where are research now in terms of contemporary work? So tell me a story, tell me a narrative. Jones says this. Watson agrees with Jones, but he also says this. Mackenzie does not agree and suggests this. He says the model is inadequate. Obviously, you're not going to use he and she. You're going to keep it in third person. But you speak about the authors. But I wanna see how you develop a story. I want to see that golden thread in your literature review, how you put together this piece of academic overview that pertains to your focus area, little topic. And when I read your literature review, I want to be educated. I want to be informed. I want to say, all right, I know everything I need to know. When it comes to the actual study and the data collection and the interpretation and the evaluation, I will be able to understand because the student has informed me with a well-written, logical, coherent, substantial, and complete literature review outlined in a structure that makes sense, where there's good use of headings and subheadings. Please also put all of those in your table of contents. By the way, call it a table of contents, nothing else. Call it a reference list, nothing else. Nice submission, cover page, detailed table of contents, not a cluttered document. Please space your words, justify your text, line spacing, all of that. Give me a readable document. Old sources, there's this benchmark about 5 years, then it gets dodgy. Obviously, seminal sources that you can merit to include is a different story. But guys, the world changed. Let me give an example. How much did the COVID pandemic change the world? If we ask that question. Look at remote working. So people were in offices for the most part. COVID came, everyone had to go back, work from home. Companies said, oh, wow, fantastic. We're giving up office space. We're saving money on rental. People are working on their own at home, remote working and online. And people thought, oh, wow, that's fantastic. That was a trend following COVID. The latest trend, studies show, is that companies are retracting those remote working agreements in many cases. Company says because of a lack of team cohesion, they want employees back in office. The remote working is not the best thing since sliced bread, as people might have thought. So there's lots of studies coming out now that says, listen, for team cohesion, for team communication, we need people to come back to office. That's a trend. That's all in the span, all in the span of 2, 3, 4 years. Can you see how quickly the landscape can change in the social world where we find ourselves? There's exact sciences, gravity, the force of gravity, Newton's laws. Those are never going to change. Those are exact sciences. But in social or behavioral sciences, where we find ourselves, humanities, things change and they change quickly. All right. So you need to bring all of that into your discussion. I think that's clear. All right. I'm scrolling through the part 2 assignment brief, which is the one that you're going to submit, I believe, somewhere around the 25th of April. Guys, Important submission. If you've lost marks on a referencing style error, I don't want you to lose marks again. I want you to kick yourself hard, because it's easy to miss. Um, when I speak to students and I say, listen, you lose marks for these referencing errors, they tell me, oh my goodness, how could I miss that? Which means double check and triple check your work. Don't make the mistake of throwing away marks on the ref style. Guys, I'm going to be strict on that. 5% or 10%. And if I was lenient in the first round, I'm going to become more strict on that. Why? Because we are academics. There should be zero referencing style errors in an academic paper. All right, so that's the first thing. Be mindful of that. There's your instructions, there's word counts. I will allow you to exceed slightly within limits. Please don't give me a literature review of 1,000 words or 2,000 words. It has to be substantial. It's a big document, guys. There's a lot of work here. Okay. All right, the whole introduction is there, the paradigm is there again, the theoretical foundation is there, conceptualization is there, we spoke about that. Then the literature review section combined accounts for 40% of the submission. The total submission, let me go back quickly, is 100 marks. So there's a lot of marks. They say 40 marks in the actual review. And then there's a conclusion. Guys, please make sure that you include all those headings. This is where we allocate marks. If you go to the details that the rubric gives, the corrections implemented, that's what we're talking about. It's your first concept document that is updated and included, either as an annex or as a separate submission. And then again, there's marks for the rest. The rubric will give you a lot of detail. Guys, here is a tip. This is where you're going to find enormous insight into what we want. What do we use to mark? We use this rubric. This is what we use. So when I look at your work, I'm gonna put you somewhere in a block, and I'm gonna assign a mark to you based on what I see in these rubric description blocks. This is a place that I want you to look at in detail when you put together your work, so that you have an idea of what the marker will be looking for. Very important. You guys know that by this time. So there's all the elements we're talking about. Linking the problem to the literature, the relevance of consulted literature, the argumentation. What's the quality of the arguments? Are you giving me shopping list? Jones says this, Mackenzie says that, Watson says that, Van der Berg says that, Ferreira says that, Van Niekerk says that? Or are you giving me good arguments? Arguments that are integrated, arguments that form part of telling me the story. There's a mark for that. Quality and number of sources. Guys, your final research report will contain, listen to me, pages and pages and pages and pages of references. It's not your core modules where we say include 8 or 9 references. There will be pages of references in your final report. Most of them will be in this literature review, and a lot will be in the rest in your research method and so on. So why this is a time-consuming undertaking is you have to get all these sources. You have to make sure they're quality sources, they're credible. You have to know how to use them correctly, how to incorporate them into your writing. Guys, what we do now, we're going to take over to the final report. If you do a sloppy literature review now, first of all, it means you're not going to be that subject matter expert because you did it half. Secondly, it means you're going to have to do a lot of work later on in the semester when you have to do your literature review from the start. So there's no better investment in your research than to do a good quality literature review now. It's a great and beneficial investment. Do the hard work, sit there for days and nights, through night, do it, get it done, get it out of your life, but give me quality. All right. This is a biggie. It's a real biggie. It is a monster. You have to do it. You have to cross that river. Do it well. Yeah, so pages of references. On that point, guys, you need to organize your references. References can run away from you. You have to get some system whereby you organize your references, you label them, you capture them in the correct format, you organize where they belong and what they do. You get a nice article, and inside the article, there's 10 or 12 references that you might want to investigate. And you see, this is a good one, this is a no-no, this is a maybe. Now you have to go into those articles. And now you get another bunch of references that you need to check out. Can you see how this thing can just become a mess? So get a system where you can organize your literature review sources and keep track of them to include and to make sure that everything is there, everything is in place. Get a system for you to manage your literature review record keeping, your sources, and then make sure to incorporate things in the correct way. We spoke about um, contextual referencing. I'm going to subtract a lot of marks for you under argumentation. If you reference people out of context, you talk about your study and stuff that you do and stuff you see, and then you just put an author at the end of the sentence, where the author has nothing to do with what you said, what you decided. Don't do that. Don't tell me the researcher is going to select a sample size of 12 participants and then say that is deploy Sylvia. Deploy Sylvia had nothing to do with your decision. Something like the researcher will select a sample size of 12 participants, which is in accordance with the guidelines provided by Deploy Sylvia from Research Matters. Can you see the difference? I'm using the reference, but I'm using it in the right context. Guys, I'm going to nail you if you reference people out of context, because it is a form of plagiarism. All right. Number and quality of sources. The use of academic discourse. Yes, high-level academic discourse. Guys, this is academic writing. Have I shown you my tips for academic writing? Have we gone through that exercise the first time we met? Anyone? You can't remember. Right. And there's your corrections implemented, 100, and again, there's the negative marking for referencing style errors. Guys, that's the rubric. I think it's pretty straightforward. Your lecturer has also dealt with a lot of these stuff, I believe. And I want you guys to give me a good literature review. It's going to put you on a very, very solid trajectory. And then we meet, some of you will be meeting with me tomorrow evening. Some of you will be meeting with me on Saturday. We're going to iron out little issues and make sure that you are heading on the right direction as a whole. And then please make sure your literature review is something that you do good, you do well, you put the hours in, and you put out something that you are proud of. That's what I want you to do. It's not about me. It's not about me and marking and me getting in a bad state. I'm not. That's not my role. My role is to support you, to tell you to please, sorry, show me the potential you have, and do the absolute best you can. You owe that to yourself, guys. That's that one. Just briefly how the process will work. There will be a presentation component. There will be an actual proposal. There will be a lot of talking and decision making on that. The document you want is the ethical clearance letter. With that in hand, you can start data collection. You cannot start unless you have a data collection instrument. A letter, ethical clearance letter. Yeah, not a data collection instrument, an ethical clearance letter. If you do require a gatekeeper's letter, that would also be something new. Not all of you will require a gatekeeper's letter. My advice to you would be to bypass the necessity of a gatekeeper's letter if you can, because that adds additional stuff that you need to get in place, additional documentation. Then I did say to most of you, make a big thing about ethics. Ethics is becoming a big thing in research. So we want you to really demonstrate that you've got ethics in hand. Talk about your documentation, talk about everything you will do. Don't treat ethics as a small thing. Treat it as a big thing. That's good. That's what we want to see. We want to see that you are completely in control and that you will do ethical research. The way you work with your people, the way you protect your people, the way you protect your data, the way you use your documentation, all of that, the way you actually physically do the research and work with it, all of that forms part of your ethical plan. So please don't treat that as a small thing. In the day and age where we live, there's pop here, there's pop here, and there's a lot of eyes on academic work and academic publications and how research is conducted. And as an institution, the IIE is very, very strict on ethical issues. So don't neglect that. Guys, there's not a lot I want to say in the general meeting now, apart from make sure everything is there. Just do it. Just get into this and do it and get it over with. Remember, every word you type takes you one word closer to the end. When you write up that 15,000 word report, you're going to sit there and type literally every word, every comma, every full stop. You are responsible for every word. When you come to the final stages, you're going to type the very last word and the last full stop in the last paragraph of your report, and then it's done. So we're working there. There's progress. Everything we do is progress. We're eating this elephant one little bite at a time. Don't lose momentum. Don't get disheartened. Just carry on and do your thing. All right. Any questions from the floor regarding the general submission of part 2? Keeping in mind that I will touch base with you and check in with all of you individually. If there's no questions, I'm happy to end the meeting and adjourn, and I will make this recording available. Happy?
Yes, Doc, all good on my side.
Thank you, Carl and Newland.
It's all good on my side.
Good. All right. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of info, but guys, you will be surprised. And I want to tell you something else. You will absolutely be impressed by your brain and how your brain makes sense of all of this. Your brain is a wonderful organ. And sometimes we forget that, and you will be reminded again of how wonderful your brain is. You will see when it comes to the data, how your brain will just make sense of all of this. How things will just, your brain will make sense of all this chaos. Guys, clean up research methodology. I want as much detail as possible under the research methodology sections that are included here. Keep it simple. Don't make too much. The focus is on the process of research, not so much on the content. Don't try and change the world. That is not the expectation. I wish you well. Some advice for you would be to cancel social obligations over the long weekend and put your hours into the research project. I wish you well. I am proud of each and every one of you. Work hard, guys, and let's make it happen. I greet you, and we speak again soon. Cheerio.
Bye, Doc.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye. Bye.